All right. So this is an opportunity for us to go ahead and take advantage of this opportunity. This is a good chance for us to take advantage of this opportunity and kind of revive the sunnah, and don't miss it. Don't miss it. So as we are conducting this class, alhamdulillah, my wife and my son are doing their taraweeh in the room. So that is something that I would want for you all to do the same. Don't miss your taraweeh, even if it's just 2 rak'ahs, even if it is just 2 rak'ahs, go ahead and pray it. But make sure you pray those 2 rak'ahs in a manner in which you will feel content that, you know what, I have worshipped Allah for this night. Yani, we can't really worship Allah the way He deserves, but what I'm saying is you will have that satisfaction come over you. And that is the sunnah of praying the night prayer. You pray the night prayer until you feel satisfied. You feel that, you know what, okay, I'm tired, I can't do it anymore. This is good enough for me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He does not burden a soul more than what they can handle. So do whatever you can. If you can only do 2 and then 2 later on, go ahead and do that as well. If you want to do all 8, all 20, whatever amount it is. Many of us, or rather many people, they go ahead and argue and debate how many rak'ahs of taraweeh, and all of these debates. And this debate has been going on for hundreds of years, and it's not going to end, and it's going to go on and continue for hundreds of more years if the world still is in existence. So these debates are not going to end, and rather than us losing sight of the purpose and objective of Ramadan, we should actually be debating with ourselves, how many rak'ahs have I prayed, right? And we should actually be reminding and helping one another, rather than looking down upon those who are not praying the same number of rak'ahs that we are praying. And I always used to say before Ramadan that you should have a Ramadan buddy, and basically remind each other. Just have maybe like 4 people in a group, people who are the closest to you. Go ahead, and when you wake up, they wake you up. When you wake up, when you wake up, you wake them up, and if they wake up, they wake you up, and so on. So go ahead and create such a group, and that is just for Ramadan, and it can continue afterwards as well if you like. But this is what it means to help one another in doing good. So that is just a little preface that I would like to go ahead and say before we start our class. This class, alhamdulillah, we have been conducting the 99 names of Allah so far. I think we've done 60 plus names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the title, this is a book I'm actually writing, and I haven't come up with a title yet. So these are just the potential titles that I'm thinking of. Just give me 1 minute. So these are just the potential titles that I am coming up with. 99 ways of being happy. And then the subtitle will be through the beautiful names of Allah, or attaining happiness and through the beautiful, or just be happy, how to attain happiness through the beautiful names of Allah, or pursuit of happiness, or other things. So I don't know. So this is a book that I am currently working on, and the first gratitude and the first thanks and also credit goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then the second, I would say, goes to my students. Actually, they were the reason that I decided to go ahead. I said, if I'm going to be teaching this class, I might as well go ahead and write something that's good. So I have some of my students here: Sister Farah, Sister Fazida, Sister Salwa, and who else? Sister Rahima and Rihana. So alhamdulillah, may Allah bless them all. So we have actually talked about some of these names of Allah. So we started with Allah, and then we talked about al-rahman, al-rahim, al-malik, and as-salam. Some of them were just very, very, relevant to a given circumstance. Nonetheless, um, Nonetheless, these names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though they are connected and they complement one another, but the curriculum is such that one name does not depend on the previous name, that you must know what the previous name means, because even though they are connected, they are not dependent on one another. So you could go ahead and actually join this class in the middle of it, and then so I've decided that preference or priority needs to be given to those students that have already started this class about 6 months ago or a little bit more than that. So we are at Al-Waliyy Al-Mawlaa, and then once we are done with all the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with them, if the current batch wishes to continue with the 99 names of Allah, then we can go ahead and start from the beginning and then stop right here at Al-Wali. So that is the plan, inshallah, rather than me having two different batches, especially in the month of Ramadan. It is going to be a bit difficult. Also, the third thing that I would like to say, at the end of the class, if anyone feels that this class is at the end of the class, if anyone feels that this class is just, let me admit these people. If anyone feels that this class is something that is probably not for them for this particular time, then please go ahead and inform Sister Farah and Sister Karina to go ahead and make the necessary arrangements for you guys. And also number 4, I know I promised that this class is going to be from 9 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. And I also promised that I'm willing to change the class if all of you decide that, hey, let's do it 2 p.m. In the afternoon. So this is in a way a trial class, so that way we can determine if this is the best class. I know some of you are very, very consistent and persistent in your tahajjud and taraweeh, and I don't want you guys to miss that, because right after that you guys all go to sleep. So I don't want this class to get in the way of that. So I want to be accommodating as much as I can. So having said all of that, let's go ahead and start this class, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. One of the names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we're going to talk about is Al-Waliyy Al-Mawlaa. These two names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are connected, and that's why and they're very close in meaning, and that's why I've decided to make these two names of Allah as one topic. These are two different names, so you could have a person by the name of Abdul Wali, and you could have another child and name them Abdul Mawla, the slave of Al-Mawla. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He calls Himself Al-Wali on 5 occasions in the Quran. On 5 occasions in the Quran. Allah, He is the Lord and loving protector of His believing servants. He guards them, He supports them, and He is their ally in this world and in the next. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in chapter 2, verse 257. Chapter 2, verse 257. Let's turn to that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu. Allah, He is the ally. So I like to also get another translation of it as well. Usually these three, Picktaw, Muhsin, and Sahih International. I like these three. These are my favorite. Anyway, so Allah, He is the ally. He is the wali. And what does wali mean? It means protector or guardian or ally of those who believe, meaning Allah, He is the wali of those who have iman in Him. Okay? He brings them out of darkness into light, but as for those who disbelieve, their awliya, and that's the plural of wali, are taghut, are false deities. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is saying in this verse of the Quran, chapter 2, verse 257, Allah, He's saying, that is because Allah, He is the, and Allah, He is the wali of those who believe, meaning the believers. He brings them out of darkness into light. Allah, He also calls Himself al-Mawlaa 11 times in the Quran. He's the one who is the most excellent protector of the believers. He's the ultimate master of all things, and the believers can always trust in Him to protect them in this world and in the hereafter. Allah, we can always depend on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now this name of Allah also goes with al-wakeel. Al-wakeel. This name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also goes with the name al-wakeel, which means the person that we could all depend upon. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over here, He's saying that He is also al-wali. He is the ultimate master of everything, of all things. And we as the believers can always put our trust in Him to protect us and help us when we are in difficult situations. And Allah, He says in chapter 47, verse 11, right here. It's in the footnotes. So chapter 47, verse 11. Okay. Inshallah, once I'm done with this book, I will give a copy of my book to everyone for free. Let me rephrase. To all of my students for free. Okay. So just bear with me. I cannot give you a copy right now. I can't give you even excerpts of it because I don't want to be accused of plagiarism. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is saying, that is because Allah, He is the Mawla, means the protector of those who believe, and the disbelievers have no Mawla. You see that? So these names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, some of them are only specific for the believers. Now from my older students, Sister Farah, Sister Fazida, Sister Salwa, Sister Aida, can you think of a name that was only for the believers?
Al-rahim.
Very good. Very good. So we have the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right here. We have this name, al-rahman, al-rahim. Al-rahman, it means the all-merciful. Okay? The all-merciful. Means He is merciful to all of His creation. But then al-rahim, it means, I should have put this as especially merciful. So al-rahim, it means that He is especially merciful to only His believers. So when it comes to the believers, the mercy of Allah, both al-rahman and al-rahim encompasses them. But when it comes to animals, and when it comes to non-believers, non-Muslims, then Allah, He is merciful to everyone. But then He has a special type of mercy for just His believers. So we have some names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that is just very specific to His believers. And these are one of those names. These two are the names that are specific to the believers. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Allah, He is the Mawla of the believers, and the disbelievers have no protector. And that is in chapter 47, verse 11. Now, what is a wali? A wali is someone who is willing to protect you, who is willing to help you, and who is willing to support you. Okay? Whereas a mawla, I'm just doing a little bit of editing. A mawla is someone who has the ability to protect you. And he does so as well. So we have Allah as our wali, who is someone who's ready to help you. And al-mawla is someone who has the ability to protect you. So Allah has both the will and the ability to be our protectors. Some people only has the will, but they don't have the ability. Other people only have the ability, but they don't have any will. Whereas Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has both the will and the ability to protect us. And He does so. Allah, He's a protector of all the believers. Allah, He's al-wali, the ally, the helper, and He is al-mawla, the master and the protector. Therefore, as believers, we should not depend on anyone to take as our protectors. As believers, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that we should not take anyone else as our ultimate protector. Allah, He says in chapter 42, verse 9, or have they taken awliya? Awliya is the plural of wali. Have they taken awliya besides Him? Meaning besides Allah. But Allah, He alone is al-wali. And it is He who gives life to the dead, and He is able to do all things. Who's your protector? Who is the person who is going to be your ally at the time of need? Allah, He tells us in another part of the Quran, do not take the Jews and the Christians as your awliya, as your protectors. Now, many people translate that verse of the Quran wrongly by saying that we should not take the believers, we should not take the Jews and the Christians as our friends. That is a wrong translation of the Quran. Let me go ahead and find the exact verse so I can reference it. It's in chapter 5. Chapter 5, verse 51. Chapter 5, verse 51. I think brother or sister Shah always requests me to record, so I'm actually in the process of uploading the videos to YouTube for the Sirah class. So inshallah, you guys can go ahead and refer to that. Anyway, coming back here, Allah, He says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, La tattakhidhu al-yahuda wal-nasara. Do not take al-yahud wal-nasara awliya, as allies. It doesn't mean do not take them as friends. We can take them as acquaintances, And as Muslim men, we could even take them as our wives. But we cannot take the Yahud and the Nasara as our allies, as many of the Muslim countries have done. They take the Jews and the Christians as allies, so that way they can go ahead and fight the other Islamic countries. Allah, He explains why we could not take them as allies. He says, they are allies of one another. They are allies of one another. And this is another threat Allah He is giving to us. And whoever is an ally to them, then he is one of them. This is a threat by Allah. That if you become an ally to the Jews and the Christians, then you are going to be one of them. You could call yourself a Muslim all you want. You can go for Hajj and Umrah every year. You can pray Tahajjud. You could help the poor. You could do all the good things that a person can do. But if you're an ally of the Jews and the Christians against the Muslims, right, this is actually against the Muslims. If you are an ally of the Jews and the Christians against the Muslims, Allah is saying, then you are one of them. What does it mean you are one of them? It means you are a non-Muslim. So when you are dying, the angels will come to you and take your soul as a non-Muslim. You will not have the ability. You tell me one Muslim leader in our time that has died, and the people have said, we have heard him say the Shahada before his death. You know, we know everything about their lives, right? We know everything about these Islamic or these leaders of Islamic countries. We know what they like. We know which school they went to. We know every day where they are, who they take pictures with. We know how much money they make. We know everything because they're public figures. We know even there's like you know, these secret videos or audio conversation that comes out. We know so much about them. Yet, have you ever thought that we don't know, because no one has actually witnessed, no one has actually said this about them, that, you know what, he died while saying La ilaha illallah? Why? Have we ever thought about that? Because in their capacity as leaders of the Islamic world, they have taken the Jews and the Christians as walis, as awliya. So Allah, He's saying, don't take them. If you take them, then you are from amongst them. What does it mean? You are one of them. That means at the time of your death, you will die as a Jew or a Christian, even if you gave sadaqah and zakah and performed hajj. Right? Even if you kissed the black stone, even if you did all of these things, you are going to be one of them. And that's why I find it very, very scary that you don't see or you don't hear that these people have died with the Shahada on their tongue. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He tells us, let me go back here. When Allah, He tells us, have you taken another protector besides me? In chapter 42, verse 9. Meaning, do not take another protector besides me. Why? Because Allah alone, He is the protector. Now, what are some of the benefits that we can derive from this? I know this book is about how to be happy through the names of Allah, or how to gain happiness through the names of Allah. So I'm going to, because this is a book, so I have to be focused. I can't, you know, like how the way I'm teaching class, I can't go all over the place. But for the purpose of our class, I am. But for this book, it's just how to gain happiness, right? But in class, then I will go ahead and touch upon other stuff that's pertinent to our current situation. Let me see if anyone needs. Just give me 1 minute. Sometimes there's people. All right. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's the protector of all of the believers. And when Allah becomes someone's protector, that person cannot have any fear or anxiety. Imagine if you have a bodyguard that goes and walks around with you everywhere you go. Do you think you're going to be fearing anyone? No. Imagine if you have a guarantor in your life as a person who takes a loan. You won't fear anyone. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He is protecting you, this should remove to a large extent our fears and our anxieties. Why? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who removes affliction. And He removes the fear of poverty from the believers. A believer is someone who does not fear poverty. What do I mean he doesn't fear poverty? Well, this is his attitude when it comes to his rizqi, his sustenance. His attitude towards his rizq is that I cannot leave this world unless I have taken every single grain of rice that is written for me. I cannot leave this world until I have consumed all the rizq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has apportioned for me. No matter how hard I try, I cannot gain more than what Allah has already made the qadr for me, has already predestined for me. So when we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is al-Waliyy, that should remove our fear of poverty. That should remove our anxiety. What is going to happen right now in this pandemic? You know, some of these people that are hoarding food supply, right? They are hoarding food supply. Some people are 2 months worth of food supply in their house. That's what one person said. They have 2 months worth of food supply. Everyone is just panicking. And this is just the beginning. Imagine 1 year down the line if we are still in MCO. And by the way, things are never going to go back, at least in the very near future. The world has changed, and the world is never going to be the same to a very, very large extent. Things are being disrupted. Now the food supply is being interrupted. You have people, I just right before the class started, my wife was saying, have I heard about, you know, the Rohingya refugees and how what's happening to them? And I said, hey, this is not a surprise. This is to be expected. We should not be talking bad about them. We should, if we're not helping them, we should definitely not be talking bad about them, because some of the locals were saying very, very nasty stuff. It's going to start from the poor people. They're going to start robbing. Why? Just to stay alive. I live near Slayang, the wholesale market here. Last week on Monday, when I went to try to buy some wholesale items, right? It was it was completely locked up by the army. The army came in, so they stopped me and asked me questions. I said, I'm just here to buy some stuff. They say you can't. So I made a U-turn and I left. Right, and then I read in the and that was just given a like literally 5 hour notice. They announced at nighttime, and then tomorrow in the morning, 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, the army was there. So no one had any heads up. So they said it's only going to last for 5 days. This quarantine, meaning on Friday they will lift it. So I said, okay, I'm not going to trust that time frame. I'll go next week. So today I decided to go. Let me go ahead and buy some stuff. I went and it was still cordoned off. Now, what are they giving them? They're giving them rice, oil, and some other stuff. Is that what it takes to survive? Of course they're going to do that. I'm not saying that it is correct, but these kinds of attitude and these kinds of behavior is going to come out in the US. There's already looting that's happening. They're not refugees. They're living within their own. They're living in the most powerful nation. Yet it's already happening. The food supply is being disrupted to a very, very large extent. So it's going to happen. And I would not be surprised that if 6 months down the line, you will have the rich people doing the same thing just to stay alive. Now, these kinds of things happen in the time of the Prophet ﷺ. A famine hit. It was called the year of drought. For 2 years, there was no rain. And the only thing that was raining upon them was sand. Literally sand in Medina. The only thing that was in Medina in the time of Umar radiallahu anhu was sand. Sand was just blowing left and right, and there was no rain for 2 years. What happened? The first thing to die was the plants and the vegetation. The second thing to die were animals. And the third thing to die was what? Were humans. You know what Umar radiallahu anhu did? He suspended one of the hudud law, which was the law of cutting off the hands for the thieves. Why? Because he said this is to be expected. People are going to steal just to stay alive. People are not stealing with the intention that they want to become rich. They are stealing just to survive, and in Islam that is okay. So he suspended that for 2 years. Meaning anyone caught stealing for the sake of staying alive, he will not cut off his hand. It was not encouraged, of course. That wasn't an encouragement. And that is what, so I'm not saying about the Rohingya refugees that we should actually be, what they're doing is okay. Right? Because some people, they said, oh, these are the same people you were helping them. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. Does it mean that a few bad eggs, I shouldn't be helping them? The whole, yeah, I mean, look at, like the real, I don't know if I'm gonna give them a benefit of the doubt that it was out of emotions, that they were emotional about this. I mean, nothing happened to them. They just heard in JB this happened, just a few. So now you have 1 million or 500,000 or however many you have here in Malaysia. I didn't check the statistics. Now, out of the 100,000 Rohingya refugees, 10 people did this, which is 0.00001%. And now you're going to go ahead and label the whole race like that? How fair is that? But it is to be expected. It is to be expected. All right. Anyway, coming back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is sufficient as our protector. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in chapter 10, verse 62. Let's turn to chapter 10. Verse 62. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, are you guys with me? Because the internet is slow, so just let me know. All right. Okay. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in chapter 10, verse 62, no doubt for the allies of Allah there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. I don't know why it's not. Anyway. Allah says, no doubt for the allies of Allah there will be no fear concerning them, nor will they grieve. Those who believed and were fearing Allah, for them are glad tidings in the worldly life and in the hereafter. So our belief, our belief in Allah as al-Waliyy and al-Mawlaa should give us this contentment that He is going to take care of us both in this world and in the hereafter. Allah will protect us in this world and He will protect us in the hereafter. If you fear the people, if you fear, for example, if people have stopped talking to you because you started to pray, I'm sure some of us have come across certain people. And who are they? Most likely they're going to be family members, right? They are the first people to go ahead and put us down when you start to pray, when you start to wear the hijab, when you don't want to commit haram anymore. They're going to be the first one to boycott us, right? Just like in the seerah that we talked about on Sunday, our Sunday class, right? Who were the first people to oppose the Prophet ﷺ? His own uncles, specifically Abu Lahab, his own tribesmen. So if people stop talking to you because you are trying to become a better Muslim, you want to change your life around, then be happy with Allah as your protective friend. Be happy with al-Mawlaa, because He will come to your defense against your enemies. Be happy, and al-Wali will be the enemy of those that harm you. If you have that confidence and that iman in Allah and entrust your affairs to Him, then you will see how He will come to your defense. Allah, He says in chapter 8, verse 40. Chapter 8, verse 40. Let's look here. And hold fast to Allah. Meaning, what does this mean? Hold fast to Allah. It means have confidence in Allah. Depend in Allah. He is your Mawla. He is your friend. He is your protector. What an excellent Mawla and what an excellent helper He is. Look at how beautifully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says this. Chapter 8, verse 40. Look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. وَإِن تَوَلَّوْا فَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّ اللَّهَ مَوْلَاكُمْ نِعْمَ الْمَوْلَى وَنِعْمَ النَّصِيرُ. Hold fast to Allah. He is your Mawla, and what an excellent Mawla you have, and what an excellent helper you have. These are both the two names of Allah. An-Nasir means helper. And also Allah, He says, and if they turn away, this is in chapter, sorry, the first one was chapter 22, verse 78. Sorry, you guys. The first one was chapter 22, 78. This second one is in chapter 8, verse 40. Allah, He says, and if they turn away, then know that Allah is your Mawla. And what an excellent Mawla, and what an excellent helper. And over here Allah is saying, and this is chapter 22, verse 78. The first one that I mentioned. So Allah, He's talking about Himself. If I become your Mawla, you have the best Mawla there is. You have the most excellent Mawla. He's the type of friend that I'm sure in our lifetime we have come across those people that have given you the impression that they are your friends, that they are your well-wishers, whatever it is, right? But when times become hard, their true colors come out, right? Let's say you become poor. Oh, they don't want to hang around with you anymore. Let's say you're going through, you become ill. Yeah, okay, the first week, the first month, they may be visiting you and calling you, but after that, why? Because friendship is based on, it's symbiotic. It's based upon mutuality. You give, I take, you take. If you're not helping me, I'm not going to be your friend. Unfortunately, that's the world, we're living in. And those are not your true friends. Your true friends are those, no matter, as long as you don't infringe upon their rights, of course, but no matter your affairs, whether you're rich, today you're rich, tomorrow you're, like, do you know the Billionaires Club? They have a Billionaires Club. Once you get kicked out of the Billionaires Club by Forbes magazine, well, guess what? I mean, you're still the same person. Like, you still have the same qualities. If you were friendly, or if you were like a courteous person, you still have that. But those other billionaires don't want to hang around with you anymore. You get kicked out of the Billionaires Club. So don't have that type of a club mentality with those people, just because, all right, now they're not doing too well in life, you're just going to abandon them. We have that, actually. So Allah, He's telling us He is the most excellent Mawla. Because Allah, He doesn't look at our, even when we rebel, even when we commit a sin, do you think Allah, He lets us go? Imagine if we committed a sin and then Allah says, I'm not your Mawla anymore. He's not going to protect us anymore. He's not our wali. No, Allah, He's still providing for us, still protecting us. He's doing all of this on top of the fact that we are still transgressing against the limits of Allah. We expect so much from Allah, yet we don't give anything as close to in return. Imagine if the protection, the rizq, the mercy, the forgiveness, the help of Allah was directly proportional to how much we obey Him. It is not, actually. Because Allah, He gives risk to the non-Muslims and to the Muslims, to the believers and the disbelievers, to the transgressors and the obedient ones. Imagine if it was directly proportional. Imagine if Allah says, okay, once you disobey, but our friendship with our kids is like that. Your kids don't listen to you, guess what? They're not gonna have any sweets or dessert, right? You ground them when they're not doing their chores. You don't give them their weekly allowance. Our friendship with your wife doesn't listen to you, well, guess what? She ain't getting that gift. Yeah, my wife and my son are laughing there. Your son ain't listening to you. But guess what? He ain't getting that, birthday or whatever gift it is. Our relationship is like that, good or bad. I'm not the judge, but that's how we have made it. Your friends, okay, one time you give them a gift, and then when it's your time to get it, they don't give it, or like, okay, I'm not gonna give it to that person anymore. Is that a true friend? I've talked about this in my class before, where and my sister called about 2 weeks ago after the death of my grandfather, Allah yarhamu. And she was just mentioning a few things that she was going through and this and that, and my mom, a few things. So I was just giving her a lesson from all of the names of Allah and some of the things I was teaching. I said, call those people, continue to call them, because you are a good person, not because they deserve it, because you are good. When you're giving a gift to your spouse, and the spouse, they're so happy, but they just don't have it in them to give you a gift. I mean, it's not because they're evil or because they are stingy. No, it just doesn't occur. Some spouses are like that. You're like buying flowers and you're buying this, and sometimes they even ask you, hey, I need this. You're like, okay, all right. But they don't have it in them to do the same. Well, guess what? You need to start changing your attitude. You need to start, you know what? This gives me pleasure when I buy them flowers. It makes me happy. I want to ask you guys, how many of you have Chinaware in your cupboards, in your kitchen? Right? How many? Probably a few of you, right? When was the last time you ate from it? Or are you keeping it for some VIP, VVIP, triple VIP guests to come to your house? And then you are depriving yourself from enjoying your life. How many? I mean, I know in my parents' house, they used to put like, covers and everything on the sofa so it won't get dirty. And then when we were gone, and then some guests were coming like the next day, and we came like, Mom, you bought new couches? She's like, no, and these are the same couches. And I was like, when I bought my Note 3 in 2013, when it first came out, right? I bought this cover and I bought that cover and the screen this, and so the screen, the sun would reflect from it and I couldn't really see it, and the light would be reflecting from it. I was in like so much pain. And then the cover, I wouldn't see like the beautiful white thing covering it. You know what I did? I just threw it away after a couple of, and the cover that I bought started wearing out, and the leather started coming out, and it looked ugly. I'm like, am I planning on selling this phone again? No. Because by that time, when another phone comes out, people will want to have that phone, not my phone. So why shouldn't I just enjoy my phone right now? And so if it cracks, alhamdulillah, I have an excuse to go buy another one. If it messes up, alhamdulillah, that's an excuse. So what I'm saying is, Our relationship with people is such, even our most loved ones, is based on reciprocity, where they do something, we do something back for them. Whereas Allah, no. Imagine if Allah's relationship with us was like that. Imagine if Allah said, you are not going to have any more oxygen because you did not worship me or you didn't obey me. Wow. You're not going to have water or food or anything. Allah, He has everyday angels protecting us. You read Ayatul Kursi after every salah, there's another angel to protect you. So every one of us, we have angels protecting us. Then you do other things, you will have angels. You say, Bismillah alladhi la yadurru ma'asmi shay'un fil ardi wala fis sama' wa huwa as-sami'ul 'alim. Nothing in the heavens or the earth can ever harm you. Do you ever think about using that also as a measure to protect yourself from this pandemic? Or is it only like gloves and face masks? Go ahead, use that. Nothing wrong with that. But in addition, shouldn't we be using Ayatul Kursi after every single salah? Shouldn't we be reading the morning adhkar and the evening adhkar? Right? That adds extra layer of protection. I bet that some of you, before you leave the house, you put what is it, that disinfectant on, and then you put your gloves on, and then you put your mask on, and then you go, and when you're leaving the house, you go ahead, and when you are getting the elevator, you're not going to touch it with your fingers. You're going to touch it either with a napkin that you carry with you or with with the key that I see some of these people in the right. If you're not going to touch it with your finger like this, you're going to try to touch it with your knuckles. Or you're going to do something weird like that. Why? Because even though you're wearing gloves. Why? Because it's just like those people, they have a public glass in the office. Like they all have a cup like this, so they all drink. So the guy's like, everyone drink from around every part except from this part, because that's where you hold the cup. So you go ahead and drink from that. Like all of us, we have these kinds of, precautionary measures that we take. That's how much OCD we are. Why can't we be like that when it comes to getting the protection through the Quran, through the adhkar? Yeah, okay, all right. I prayed my salah. By the way, that is a protection from Allah. Okay, before I went to sleep, I read my adhkar, specifically Ayatul Kursi. That's another layer of protection. After every salah, I read Ayatul Kursi. That's another layer of protection. I read my Quran today. That's another layer of protection. I read the morning adhkar, the evening adhkar. That's another layer of protection. In our life, we have life insurance, which is, by the way, haram, but anyway, life insurance. We have car insurance. We have unemployment insurance. We have, what kind of other, house insurance. Did I mention health insurance? And then even in the health insurance, there's so many different levels of it. Coming back to the name of Al-Waliyy and Al-Mawlaa, Allah, He's saying He is the most excellent. Why is He? Because one of the reasons is His protection for us is not contingent upon whether we obey Him or not, because we all disobey Him at one time or another. So this should give us comfort in the fact that Al-Waliyy, He knows everything that is happening around us. And He's fully aware. He is al-khabir. That's another name that we have already covered in the old batch, but the new ones, inshallah, we will talk about it later. He is al-khabir, fully aware of what our enemies are plotting against us. Enemies could be enemies at the workplace, for example, who wishes your downfall. right? For no apparent reason. Don't let that take you away from the remembrance of Allah. You just concentrate on making dua to Him. Allah, He says in chapter 4, verse 45. Chapter 4, verse 45. Here's the reference. I hope you guys can see it. My internet is still not working. I mean, it's still uploading. So chapter 4, verse 45. Allah has full knowledge of your enemies. And Allah, He is sufficient as a wali, and Allah is sufficient as a helper. What does this mean? Now, one thing I would like to remind my older students that have been taking this class and the newer ones. Anytime you see the name of Allah being mentioned at the end of the verses, so for example, helper and wali, that explains the message before it. Allah, He's not going to put a name that is not consistent with the message before it. So for example, Allah, He didn't put He's the merciful, because that would not make sense with the message before it. So Allah, so what do? Having these names, helper and wali, protector, helps us to understand this message. So because Allah, He is the helper and the protector of the believers, He is going to suffice you against your enemies. You guys see that? Allah has full knowledge of your enemies, meaning Allah, He knows what they are plotting against you and what they wish ill, the ill that they wish for you. Allah, He knows that. And because He knows that, He is sufficient for you as your protector against their plots. And He is going to help you because He is the helper against your enemies. So shouldn't our belief in Al-Wali give us that comfort in life? Also, Allah, He says in chapter 3, verse 112. Chapter 3, verse 122. Sorry. Chapter 3, verse 122. Chapter 3, verse 122. Allah, He says, when two parties from among you were about to lose heart. So this, Allah, He's talking about a battle between the non-Muslims and the Muslims. He says, when the two parties from among you were about to lose heart, meaning they were about to give up, the Muslim, a party from amongst the Muslims were about to give up, but Allah was their supporter, was their wali. And in Allah should the believers put their trust. All right. Before going to bed, let's supplicate to Al-Mawlaa and read the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah and seek refuge with Him, and it will suffice us. Before we go to bed, let's make dua to Al-Mawlaa. Now, if you guys know, by the way, this is a reference in Bukhari, hadith number 5009, and Muslim, Sahih Muslim, hadith number 808. That it was a sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to recite the last two verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, and you will see what I mean by supplicate to Al-Mawlaa, because we are supplicating to Al-Mawlaa, and it will suffice us. Look at what Allah, He says, and look at what we recite in those particular verses. In the last verse, Anta Mawlana, Anta Mawla, and then Na just means us. Na means nahnu. That is the pronoun that is used at the end of a verb, of a noun. My Arabic students. Anta Mawla. So Allah, He is Mawla, but who's Mawla? Mawlana. Fansurna ala al-qawm al-kafirin. You are our Mawla, and give us victory over the disbelieving people. Okay. Now, at the end of every name, I have a dua that I end that particular section with. Right. Let's talk about another name. I like to mention today. I was planning on doing at least 3 names, but khair. All right. Are there any questions um, before we go to the next name? Any questions?
When we are like making any dua, can we say like Ya Mola and like all the names and then we make the dua?
What do you mean?
Like uh, like there's Zal Jalali wal Ikram, Ya
Yeah,
Hamid
yeah,
al-Majeed.
yeah,
People
yeah.
usually say that you say these names, but I feel like saying particular name in certain number, I don't think so that's like, but saying different names at the same time.
So you could say some names that are very, very pertinent to your circumstance. So, for example, if you want to have a child, you will say Ya Wahhab, Ya Wahhab, Ya Arham al-Rahimin. Those types of names that are very, very particular. If you are unemployed and you want to get a job, you would mention those names. For example, you would mention Ya Razzaq as one of those names. You would mention Ya Khaliq as one of those names. You would mention um, Ya Qayyum as one of those names. Okay. If you're not, let's say you want to be forgiven by Allah, and your dua is about seeking the forgiveness of Allah, you will mention those names. Of course, you can mention all of them. You could mention any name, and still gain the forgiveness of Allah. Of course, why not?
Yeah, but we cannot
And
like do it like just certain numbers, like saying this name, this
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I will come to that, inshallah. Yeah. So there is some ahadith that says if you were to say Ya Rab, Ya Rab, Ya Rab 3 times, your dua will never be rejected. If you were to say, and there's another hadith, if you were to say Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram, Ya Dhal Jalali wal Ikram 3 times, your dua will never be rejected. Yes, correct. So that is correct. All right, if there's no other questions, then let's continue with another name. There's one, two.
Can I ask something, Sheikh?
Yes.
Um, now that we have learned Al-Waliyy and Al-Mawlaa, we know the meaning. So how do we use these names to like practice, or how do you call that? We internalize the values, like being a helper and being a master. How do we do that to our fellow creations, to the family, to friends? Can we do that?
What do you mean?
As compared to like the other name was al-qahhar. That one we can't do because it's a subduer. We cannot use that meaning to apply
Okay. So how can we practice upon this name? Very good question.
Yes.
Yeah, very good. Like for example, Allah, He is al-rahim. He is the especially merciful. We can actually practice that name by us also becoming merciful to the people. Very good. So we could also practice this in the sense that a wali of a girl should be a protector of that girl in every sense. For example, making sure that he finds a person who is the most suitable person for that individual. A father of the man of the house should be the protector and the caretaker of the family, making sure that they are always in line and uh, not they're always, for example, praying their salah. That he is protecting their religion, right? I was reading one of the tafsirs, and it just, it shocked me in a good way. It says that the man has such an influence on the family that it is actually him and his actions that will determine whether his family will be obedient servants to Allah or not. and they used the incident of Adam alayhi salam. It was Adam alayhi salam who was the one who ate from that tree that Allah told him not to eat from that tree, and he was the reason that Hawa also ate from that tree. It wasn't Hawa who told him, hey, normally we would like to blame the woman saying, oh, she made me do it, she wants me to do this. No, but it's actually the man. And if you look deeply into this incident, it makes sense. If the man says no, if the man, he wakes up, for example, for Fajr Salah, the whole family will wake up. He's going to make, if he doesn't, the whole family is going to be asleep. So it is as a result of his protection or not protecting his family. So whether he wants to be the protector of the house or not will determine to a large degree which path the family is going to take. So we can practice upon this. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that all of you are shepherds of one another. The man, he's the caretaker and the shepherd of his house, meaning his whole house he needs to be the protector of. And then in his absence, the wife, she's the caretaker and the shepherd and the protector of her kids in his absence. So all of us, we can play a role according to, like, for example, as a wife, you need to protect his honor. You need to protect his wealth. Just because he gave you the credit card doesn't mean you need to max it out. You need to actually protect that, right? And same thing with that's why in Islam, if a wali, he is not fulfilling his obligation as a wali, that is taken away from him. What do I mean? If a father, without a reason, as a wali, if he refuses to give his daughter in marriage to someone that is suitable, sakufu, for an individual that is suitable, actually she can go ahead and complain to the judge, to the hakim, to the qadi, and then his authority as a wali will be taken away from him, and it will be given to the hakim, to the judge, to the court, and then they can go ahead and marry them off. As a wali, if we do not protect our wives and do not provide for them, we do not protect them, then the woman could actually, both psychologically as well as physically and sexually and mentally, if we as men, we are unable to do that, it doesn't mean that our wives cannot go ahead and divorce us. Of course they cannot, but it doesn't mean that they cannot go to the courts and seek that. So now then the court, the judge, the Islamic judge, has that authority to revoke your status as the man entrusted with the divorce, and then he will take it upon, that Islamic judge will take it upon himself to go ahead and issue that divorce, because he has taken that responsibility of being wali, being the protector, because you failed in it. Okay. Any other questions? Someone asked, what does it mean to be the wali of Allah? It means, so this has another meaning as well. It means to be the person, it means the person who is the friend of Allah to such an extent that he's always he's always protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it also means a wali of Allah. It means also that this individual, is always under the protection of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Okay. Now we have many people in our time claiming to be wali. Oh, you know that guy, he is wali of Allah, meaning he's the friend of Allah. In short, that's what it means, wali, that he is the friend of Allah. But that person, he's the friend of shaitan. Imam Ash-Shafi'i, he says, if you find someone who is gliding in the air and walking on top of water, but he does not pray his salah, then he is not the friend of Allah, he's a friend of shaitan. Because that's what walis can do, by the way. Yeah. Walis, see, we don't have that concept nowadays because we are so materialistic. We're like, what do you mean you can glide in air? Yeah, there's people that we do not know. You don't see a friend of Allah going around, say, hey, I am the friend of Allah. You want your dua? Pay 100 ringgits, inshallah, I make dua for you. You have people doing that. I don't know if it was one of my students or someone telling me that you have people doing that. They take money and they when they're going for Umrah, they take like 100 ringgits or something from those people and say, I make dua for you. Whatever dua, I will make dua for you. Those are not friends of Allah. A friend of Allah, you will not know he is a friend of Allah. You know why? One of the reasons is because he's not known amongst the people here in this world. He is known amongst the people in the heavens. So don't ever, and I always say this to all of my students, please, and I'm talking this from, oh man, so many experience. Don't ever, because it has happened to me so many times and I have always been duped because of me just having good thoughts towards everyone. Anyway, don't be duped by people who have a large following on social media and say these are like, mashallah, the friends of Allah, and they have these white, nice clothes on, and they have all these nice, beautiful pictures in haram, and he's going like this, and he's crying to Allah in front of the Kaaba. Don't be duped by that. Because those people with 1 million or 10 million or 500,000 followers, well, guess how many angels are following them? How many angels are surrounding them when they are reading their Quran? So don't be duped by them. A friend of Allah, I'll tell you, a friend of Allah is someone when he raises his hands, that dua 100% will become accepted. But he's not going to go around saying, I am mustajabud dua. I am someone whose dua is accepted. He's not. He's going to be so hidden that if he finds out people know this about him, he will leave that city. He will leave that city. And it has happened. It has happened in many times in the history of Islam. Imam Bukhari, he said that from amongst my teachers, meaning his teachers, there were 70 of such teachers that if they were to raise their hands before their dua would be finished, that thing would have already happened. There was another year of drought in Medina. It's a long story, but I'll just get to the gist of it. There's one person who was mustajabud dua. He made such a dua that before his dua was finished, Allah had brought down such rain that people couldn't find a path to walk on because of the floods. Right? When people found out that it was because of him, he actually in the middle of the night packed up his stuff and he left Medina. Why? Because you don't become a friend of Allah showing off. You don't. You are a friend of Allah because you don't show off. You don't go around taking pictures of all of your good deeds that you're doing. You don't go, you didn't get the friendship of Allah because when you're doing humanitarian aid, you take pictures just so you could show off. If you're taking pictures just so you could encourage others, that's different. But still, the friends of Allah will not even do that. They will be like, whoever wants to give, otherwise, tough luck for you guys. You lose, right? We like to make ourselves happy. Oh, I'm only taking pictures because I like to encourage others. Okay, you know, that's your ijtihad. But if you want to be a true friend of Allah, you don't even do that. A friend of Allah doesn't go around to Hajj or Umrah and he's filming himself, right? And he says, right now I'm making tawaf, and my brothers and sisters on Facebook, the 1 million followers, I love you all. I'm making dua for you guys. He doesn't do that. It's not the friend of Allah. You don't show your dua, you don't tell the people I made dua for you. If that's why, that's how he became the friend of Allah, because everything is only for Allah. If he finds out, anyone found out about him that he's doing this, he will actually change his, because he was like, I don't want shaitan giving me even 0.1% of this show off mentality. Hey, look, you know, what if people think good about me? And that, you know, one of the scariest for me, you could scare me with Jahannam, you could scare me with everything, and I would get scared, but not as much as I do get scared when it comes to ikhlas. You know why? Because if you don't have 100% pure ikhlas, your deed will not be accepted. Imagine we spend, let's say, 100,000, 50,000, whatever amount of money it is, 50,000 ringgit just so we can go for Hajj or Umrah. Umrah, I think nowadays costs like 7,000, 8,000. Still a lot of money. It's like what, 3 months worth of 3 months worth of allowance or wages for some people. Still a lot of money, right? Yet you go and you get sick and you spend all this money and it doesn't get accepted. Why? Because just for that 1 minute you thought about, what if, you know, I want people to think good about me. Just that one time. And it got ruined. You made your salah and someone said, oh, mashallah, they're praying. And then this thing comes to your heart. Or you're attending classes and you're like, wow, I am attending classes because I want to be known by this teacher and that teacher. And then next thing you know, the reward of it. Yeah, you'll become a great student, a great scholar, whatever it is. But then the reward of it is 0, 0, 0, 0. So you come before Allah on the Day of Judgment with 70 years worth of worship. All of that has actually been multiplied by 0. Forget about 0. It has been multiplied by negative. You know how the oil prices went into negative territory? You know, where they pay you $37 to take a barrel of oil? They pay you. So if you want 100 barrels, they'll pay you $37,000 to take it from them. On the Day of Judgment, forget about getting reward. You will be getting sins, negative. May Allah protect us. It is very, 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 very scary, because then you go around thinking, I'm doing all of this, what if I don't have? But that's a good thing. That's a good thing that you're going around thinking about that, because if you are not, then that is scarier. If you're always thinking about what if I don't have ikhlas, I need to have ikhlas, that's good, because you're always renewing your intention. Always renew your intention. So sometimes, you know, you will have shaitan come up to you and whatever it is, renew your intention immediately, and then it will, the clock will restart. Inshallah. If you're not thinking about it, that's when you should actually be scared. All right, inshallah, I think I'm done. I don't want to take too much of your time. So now, 2 things I want to discuss. I want to discuss with you all. I want to discuss with you all the timing. Is this timing suitable? Is this timing suitable? Because if it's not, then we might have to rethink of the timing. But it looks like it, because we have more than 20 people, alhamdulillah, maybe. But because one of the major reasons is because of my migraine. At least now I get to have some thing to drink and take medicine. Because to be honest, when I do my Sira class, after Sira class, I just go to sleep until Asr or Maghrib. Because it just takes a lot of energy out of me and my migraine just kicks in. But so if this time is okay, inshallah, we'll continue. Otherwise, I'm willing to change for you guys.
I think it's okay. We stick to this time, Sheikh.
Okay. All right. So let's see what the others say.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good.
I think so. This time is better because during the day I also feel like more sleepy. This time I am more active.
Okay. All right. Inshallah.
Right, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. All right. Anyone else? Okay. Rahima. Good. Mariat. Zulkifli. Good. Nurliana. All right. Abdul Basid. Good. All right. Inshallah. Fazida. Ahmed.
Time is good. I'm okay.
Ridwan.
I'm okay to share, inshallah.
Zarina. Perfect. All right then. Inshallah. Then we will continue this class. Thank you very much, you guys. May Allah bless you all.
Ameen.
You're going to share the recording, right?
Yeah, we'll go ahead and